Hello, dear friends. This is Rabbi Rosenblatt joining you again for another in our series of mini lessons on the Tefilah, on the Sidur, in honor of our Shovavim observance for 5774. It is our hope that you will return to these little lessons by myself and our very wonderful assistant Rabbi Genak and our intern team, that you will return to them from time to time to refresh your own experience of the davening of the synagogue. Today I'd like to share with you some thoughts on the Kedusha, which we recite each Shabbat during the course of the Musaf Amidah. Musaf is as close to a weekly plenum, the drawing together of the entire community as we have. And the Kedusha of Musaf is particular and strange because embedded within it there is a kind of a miniaturized capsule of the recitation of Kriyat Shema, the proclamation of faith of the Jew, which begins with the word Shema Yisrael and ends with Ani Hashem Elokeichem. That capsule in the center of the Shema is, according to many authorities, a response to periods where Jews were forbidden to come together for either overt prayer and certainly for study of Torah. What it seems they were allowed to come together for was for singing, for the recitation of poetry. And since much of the piyut material which was written as poetry, probably to be sung in the synagogue, much of this material was, if you will, the hiding place for lessons that the rabbis wanted the people to have. And so if a community was deprived of the opportunity to say Shema Yisrael earlier in the day, well, when they gathered for Musaf, they were reminded of Shema and given a miniaturized version, a capsule of its meaning to recite. What is fascinating is where this Shema was placed. In another lesson in our discussion, I spoke about the bridge between the prophet Ezekiel and King David, between the second important structure of the Kedusha, namely Baruch Kevod Hashem Mimakomo, and the final verse taken from the 146th Psalm, Yimloch Hashem Le'olam. And in Shachris, indeed, there is a kind of a meditation about God coming back to reorder the world in its political sense, to become the king. This time, the bridge is slightly different, because we begin with God far away, and mimakomo hu yifen barachamim. Again, God turns to us. This time, it is barachamim, moved by his sense of mercy. And what is the magnet which is attracting God's loving, benevolent attention to this world? V'yachon am hamiyachadim shemo. And he will look with favor on the people who, in the midst of this imperfect world, continue to declare the oneness of his name. Now keep in mind, if indeed the theory is correct, that there has been an effort to quell the recitation of Shema Yisrael. Shema is endangered, and yet surreptitiously we are about to say it. In that surreptitious recitation, we are showing the dogged determination of the Jew living embattled in an imperfect world not to forget God. And so like a diamond against the background of black velvet. The faith of the Jewish people is something which draws God's loving attention back to this world and to them. And what is the result? These people who say it Erev Avoker B'chol Yom Tamid with perfect consistency, morning and evening, and almost as a kind of an incidental quote. And oh, by the way, what is it that they say? Oh, I remember now. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That we believe that God is one. This concept of oneness means not only in time, it also means that we refuse to acknowledge that the reality which we experience, sometimes the reality that we suffer, is something that has drifted beyond the power and the majesty of God. And that the God who is Bimkomo, who is far away, is also here, is also a presence, a force among us. And as a result, we declare, Elokeinu, he is still the great divine judge, but Hu Avinu, we experience him as our Father. His love manages to come through the smog of sin and still penetrate to the world. Hu Malkeinu, further, he is still our King. We still obey him. V'hu Moshienu, and he is our Savior. V'hu Yashmienu, Barachamov. And in this mercy, he will save us. And what will be the result? Yashmienu Barachamov Sheni Slaini Kolchoi. He will again allow us to hear him. And what will he say? Ani Hashem Elokechem. I am the Lord thy God. And of course, what does that remind us? That reminds us of the revelation. I am the Lord thy God who brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Once upon a time, God spoke to us with such clarity that each of us knew that it was the voice of God. Further, the world trembled, knowing that Israel's God had redeemed them in order to reveal himself to them. And we believe that that is still possible. In other words, as opposed to focusing on the world redeemed by God taking over politics, the Kedusha focuses on the world redeemed by the very possibility that God's voice can be heard in it. Redeemed by the presence of God in this world. Again, the notion of Ikar Shechina B'Tachtonim, that God has a place here below. And then we say, Uvedivrei Kodshecha Kasuv Lemor, and we are promised this eventuality in your holy writings, which here means the Psalms of David. Yimloch Hashem le'olam, God will rule. Le'olam, of course, means forever, but it also means for the world, for the universe. Elokayich Tzion Lador Vador, and your God, O Zion, for in every generation, your God, O Zion, means a sense not only of God's power, but also of his intimate presence, his presence as a reality of holiness in a world that in some moments seems immune from the entry of such a reality. And so we move again over that bridge from Ezekiel, the prophet of distance and longing. We move over a bridge to a world this time redeemed not only by the power of God, but by the voice, by the presence of God, into the world envisioned by King David. Yimloch Hashem le'olam. God will be the king over all of his creation. Again, reminding ourselves that once upon a time, a world was created and it was perfect. Once upon a time, we offered the sacrifices of Musaf on Shabbos in the Beis HaMikdash, and that we believe that the perfections of the past will be so much, dear friends, for joining me for these few moments. I hope you find them helpful. Special thanks to our friend Nachshon Rothstein for his help in producing these spots. I look forward to sharing more with you, and I frankly look forward to the chance to learn from Rabbi Genack and our brilliant team of interns. Thank you so much.